My name is Jamin Gurker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And I provide you information that's going to be helpful for you as you're making your decisions about Alaska. So think of me as your very first friend in Alaska. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the real estate market in the Mat-Su Valley. Believe it or not, this is actually the biggest market in the entire state of Alaska. So it's definitely one to keep track of. Before we get started, though, make sure you get this video like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. And without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, the first thing we want to look at this market update is what's going on in the single-family residential market. So I'm going to give you the stats, and we'll give you some caveats after that. So we see that, first off, the number of available properties this time last year was about 380, and now it's 460, and that sounds like a good increase, which it is. Okay, let's take our wins where we can get them, but you know, what I would also caveat that by saying is that normally we would see anywhere from about 700 to about 800 properties available on the market. So even though we are going up, we're still about only 50% of what we would normally expect. Also, keep in mind the number of properties available in the Mat-Su Valley may or may not be what we're actually seeing here. What I mean by that is that a lot of builders build in the Mat-Su Valley. It is the place where there's more building going on in the Mat-Su Valley than anywhere else in the entire state. So, a practice that the new construction builders do is, I don't know why I said new construction builders. They're all new if they are new construction or if they're new built. You know, whatever. All the new stuff, all the builders that are putting their stuff out there, they may or may not actually exist. You know, so it might be something where they say, well, here's a lot and this is what the house could look like. And it's like they've got a lot of pictures on there from a previous listing and they've not even broken ground yet. And does that house actually exist or not? You know, I would say that is not part of the inventory because we can't close on it and move in like next month. You know, that's frustrating. But all that being said, I don't know how much of that makeup, how much of this inventory is part of the makeup, but I would say it's probably a significant part of it because there's more new construction going on in the Mat-Su than anywhere else in the state. Now, the next thing that we want to know is how many single-family properties are actually being sold. So for the month of November, we see that the number went from about 120 this time last year, about 143 this year. So we are seeing a nice little increase, and surprisingly, despite the inventory being lower than what we've seen in previous years, about 140 for the month of November is about average. So that does kind of indicate that there is a demand for single-family properties in the Mat-Su Valley, even though the inventory, what's available, is not as high as it was before. Now, the next thing we're going to see is that the average sold price actually went from about $396,000 this time last year to about $413,000 this year, which means we see an average increase of approximately 3.9%, thereabouts. So seeing about a 3.9% increase for the average sold price. And realistically, that does not surprise me even a little bit because we've got enough of a sample size for homes being sold in the Mat-Su Valley that we kind of get a good idea, a good snapshot for how things are actually going. And about 3-4% increase for appreciation is about what I would expect in a market for single-family homes. And that's healthy, and that's what we want to see. If you're a homeowner, you might be thinking, well, I want to see things skyrocket up to like 10% increase. Believe me, you don't want that because what goes up quickly can come down quickly as well. You know, if you see an example of that, go check out the California markets, and you see they are constantly just boom and bust all the time. We want slow and steady in order to get there. And that's not to say if the market has gone up quickly at any point, well, that means it has to come down. It's like, no, it does not, you know. But if it is just a run on the market all the time, like it's just a feature of that market where it's just going to be boom and bust, then yeah, it can go up and it's probably going to come down as well. But we want that slow and steady wins the race pace. Now, looking back, you know, because I get this quite a bit from people who are, you know, still on the fence and talking like, well, let's wait until like the market comes down and everything. The people have been saying that since 2020. And had somebody purchased in 2020, you know, the average sold price this year was about $413,000. The average sold price in 2020 was about $301,000. So that's right, it's gone up over $100,000 for the average sold price in the Mat-Su Valley since then. So if you're one of those people that we're telling everyone like, oh, you got to be smart, wait till the market collapses and then buy, great job. Now, obviously, that's not to say that everyone should go buy a house every single time question is brought up. Believe me, there's a time and a place for purchasing. And that's where a real estate professional can actually talk to you and say, hey, this is a good time. And these are the things that we're going to be doing to help you be more comfortable with the process. Or, hey, maybe we need to pull someone back and say, hey, are you really sure this is what you want to do right now? Because I really think renting might be better in your situation. This is where talking with somebody's going to help you to make the best decision instead of just trying to slap you into any old home is going to be the thing that's going to help you the best. Now, let's kind of talked about that quite a bit. Feel free to let me know if you have any other questions on that. Not expecting this market to collapse anytime soon, which I know to the chagrin of a lot of people, of you out there who are thinking about purchasing in the near future. But trust me, you do not want to buy an asset that looks like it's going to just collapse anytime soon. Like if you got it when it collapsed, why do you think it's going to suddenly just be stable forever afterwards? Okay. I want a boring market with a nice little increase of appreciation and preferably with some kind of shortage. So the value does continue going up and it's not going to become overinflated with the inventory and suddenly like the prices suddenly go down. Like if you're spending all this money on something, you want to make sure that the values don't suddenly plummet. I have spent a lot of time talking about that, so let's move on and talk about land. Now, looking at land, we see that this time last year, there was roughly about 660 pieces of land available. This year, it's about 590. So seen a bit of a decrease, not too much, but seen a bit of a decrease there. And that's more or less been kind of the average we've been seeing since about August. So we're starting to see kind of a dipping of the inventory that's available compared to the year before. And keep in mind, this all is about half of what the inventory was prior to COVID. So there's definitely a shortage of land that's available for sale at the moment. Now, looking at the number of properties, pieces of raw land that have actually sold during the month of November, we see that this time last year in November, it was 30, and this year it's 44. So we're still seeing an above average increase from the year before. And really looking back prior to COVID, that would be about what we would expect, even with the inventory being half of what it is right now. We're still keeping up with the average of what we were selling prior to COVID. All right, now looking at the average sold price. I know some of you are really licking your chops here, but the average sold price went from about 82 this time last year to about 85,000 this year. So bit of an increase, not too much. Looking back to about 2020, the average sold price was about 60,000. 2019, it was actually about 63,000. I think there had to have been like some big land deal that happened to kind of throw those numbers off there. But you can expect to see a bit of fluctuation just in the average sold price by a couple $1,000s here and there. But more or less, I think right around 80,000 is the average sold price for properties in the Mat-Su Valley at the moment. Barring you got some ridiculous like 200-acre parcel for like $1 million that sells and just throws all the averages off. But what we're seeing is right around 80,000 for a piece of land. And how big that piece of land is, I do not know just by this data, but whatever the size is, about 80,000. All right, let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast for people who are considering moving up here to Alaska. In this show, I actually get an opportunity to sit down with people who have recently moved to Alaska or people who've lived up here for a long time, and I get to share with them, what it's like, or they get to share with you what it's like living in Alaska, the pros, the cons, and, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And, that's a great opportunity if you're looking at making a move up here. So if that's something that would benefit you, do go check that show in the description section down below, and would love to see you over there. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update, though, looking at the multifamily market. All right, now looking at the multifamily market in the Mat-Su Valley, we see that this time last year for the month of November, we had 30 properties available on the market, and this year there are 39. So that is a pretty good increase for the number of properties that are available. Keep in mind, we would still see around like 50 to about 60 properties available on the market for multifamily in November. So still lower than what we saw before, but that still is an increase. So let's be happy about that. Now, looking at the number of properties that have actually sold, we see that this time last year there were 3, and this year there are 8. So proportionally, that's a pretty sizable increase for the number of multifamily properties that are actually selling in the Mat-Su Valley. And we see 8 is, prior to COVID, that's really about normal. We see anywhere from about 6 to about 7. So 8 is right there in that ballpark. Now, last but not least, for the average sold price, we see the average sold price went from about $579,000 this time last year to about $594,000 this year. Now, we saw a big increase in the average sold price last year. It went from about $493,000 jumped up to about $579,000, which tells me there was probably a really big property that sold somewhere in there that kind of threw the averages off there. But the fact that we're still seeing an increase on that the next year, really does indicate that the value for multifamily properties in the Mat-Su Valley, it's up and it's probably there to stay. Barring some big economic collapse anytime soon, I'm not really seeing prices softening up anytime soon as far as multifamily goes, unless builders suddenly just oversaturate the market with inventory, at which point, supply and demand, it's going to go the other way. Now, kind of giving you the summary real quick here. First off, if I'm a buyer looking at this market, I'm kind of taking some heart because there's more inventory available now than what there has been in the past couple of years. So, that does give me some heart. You do have some more options. Buyers are or sellers are having to be a little bit more realistic in what they're willing to sell their properties for and how they're willing to negotiate. But I'm still not expecting the market to collapse anytime soon, nor is that something I would want to see, because I don't know about you, I don't like the idea of buying an asset that I think there's a good chance that it's going to just collapse anytime soon. Like that's crazy. Why would I do that? If I just bought something for the only reason that, it just collapsed, then why would I think it's not going to collapse again at some other time? Now, there's ups and downs in the real estate market, and that is normal. That's just basic economics and all that. That's nothing new. But a lot of the comments I've seen from a lot of people online is they think the market is literally going to just bottom out or be like 50% cut. And that is absolutely not what I'm seeing anywhere here in the numbers, and not what I would expect moving forward, because things like that only happen when there's an over inventory compared to what the demand is. And that is the opposite of the problem that we have now. So if I'm a buyer, I'm feeling pretty confident buying in this market. Obviously I'm going to be a little intimidated by the prices and all that, but I'm still going to jump into it. I'm still going to make it happen because it's a solid area, great investment, and that's going to put us on a good footing. And also it's going to isolate the biggest line item in my entire budget, which is housing, and it's going to keep it stable and steady for the next 30 years. Obviously taxes and all that can go up, but keeping that stable where it's at is really going to be a big benefit moving forward during a time of inflation. Now, if I'm a seller, the biggest thing I would say is that this is not the market we had a couple of years ago, where you could just ask for anything and negotiating was super easy, and we'd have like 10 offers in the hopper ready to go like within a day or two of going onto the market. We're going to have to make sure that your property shows well, and we're doing all the stuff we have to do in order to make sure you get the best top dollar value for your property, and that's going to require some effort on your part as well. So if you have any questions how we can help you with that, feel free to reach out to me. Now, really the biggest thing for investors is just make sure your numbers actually balance out and you build in enough margin on your houses to make sure that if and when something happens, you can cover it, and your tenants aren't going to be living in a place that's falling apart because you can't afford to fix the basic things that inevitably are going to come up. But yeah, this has been your market update. Thank you for watching, and this should go without saying, if you're looking to buy, selling, or investing in the Mat-Su Valley, I want to help you. That's kind of how I make my living, so feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to help, and we'll talk with you then.